There's no great mystery to using spices. When I started cooking with spices, very simply by adding a little bit of curry powder to things, and then realising that, fine as that was, it wasn't really interesting enough. I wanted to make up my own mix of spices.
And the best way to find a blend of spices that suits you is to experiment. There's a lot of spices to choose from.
I think spices are absolutely phenomenal. You know, it just really enhances flavour, you know, in any particular dish you have. You try any sort of cuisine, they've always somehow got some spices in.
Ketan Varu is a self-confessed spice obsessive.
I love using spices in every way possible. If I'm on holiday, I need to take some kind of spices to give me that sort of flavour enhancer that I need.
Ketan produces ready-made spice mixes for a wide variety of recipes. It's understanding what the flavours do that allows you to play with them in your cooking.
These are Indian dry chilies. Just gives you a nice flavour, but gives you a bit of heat, but not too much. Whereas if you used a ground chili, you'd get a lot more intense flavour of the heat. When you try the flavour of cumin, it's intense, it's really powerful, quite an earthy flavour, almost a bitter flavour. Really worth having this in your store cupboard. Turmeric, this spice is from India. In the olden days, they used to use these to healing wounds. You know, if you've got a cut or a graze, they would apply this on, and you take out the septic from the cut. These are black peppercorns, and during the spice trading era, you know, these were almost as valuable as a gold bar. Whenever I've got a little sniffle or a cold, I always tend to have a nice hot curry, and it always sorts me out, you know, gives me that boost.
Using your own spice mix doesn't have to take long. Here's an idea for a really quick vegetable curry. This dish is based around aubergines.
They need about half an hour in a colander in the sink with a little bit of salt on them. And that just draws out some of the water in the aubergine, and then they don't drink all your precious olive oil.
Whilst they are softening, roughly chop up some onions and add to a hot pan, along with some chopped garlic and some finely shredded ginger.
I'm going to let those soften a bit before I put the spices in, because I don't want the spices to burn. So I'll wait until that's become really tender. In about 10 minutes. So this is the point where I decide what spices I'm going to put into my curry.
For this curry, I'm adding crushed cardamom, a flurry of dried chili flakes, a spoonful of turmeric, and a scattering of cumin seed. Then add some chopped tomatoes, some water, and season with salt and pepper.
So these have relaxed a little bit. The salt has just drawn out a few juices, and they're just much softer. If you haven't got a griddle, you could do these under an overhead grill. Or of course, you could just fry them in oil. All you want to do is soften them so that they can go in there and just bubble away.
Once the aubergines are in the pot, let them simmer for about half an hour. You want them to be nice and squishy.
So, you see that's quite hot. I want to calm it down. There's several ways to calm a curry down. And for me, the best is yoghurt. You can use any dairy produce. And you know, when you add dairy produce to a curry, it quite often curdles. And there's so many different ways to stop it curdling. But I think the easiest way is to switch off the heat. It's only when the dairy produce boils that it actually causes you any trouble. And if it does curdle, And sometimes they do. It really isn't the end of the world. It's not going to affect the flavour, it's just going to look a little bit grainy.
As it's so punchy, I'm also adding some creme fraiche, another soothing element that will thicken your curry. Then pop in some fresh coriander and mint leaves to help soften the blow.
Gosh. Quite bright. Makes my eyes water. But there's also a silkiness, a softness to it that's come from the dairy produce. And then there's the freshness of the ginger and the earthiness of the turmeric. And it's just really rather gorgeous.
Don't be afraid of your spices. The only way you will really get to grips with how much spice to use is to try it. Go on.